Bole Baba Kite. We had a slight interruption in the internet, but we'll go on with our story today. And today, Vishnu is going to show Narada about Maya. And what Vishnu is saying is that Maya is everywhere, Narada. Her nature is the three gunas. She is the foundation of all existence, but if you would like to see her, come with me. So Vishnu called Garuda, and they got on Vishnu's vehicle, Garuda, the beautiful swan, and off they flew to a beautiful lake. And Vishnu said, Vishnu took Narada's hand and said, "Come, Narada, let us bathe in this beautiful lake. You go first, and I will follow you." I gladly set aside my deerskin and my veena, and I walked into the water. I tied my hair up, pulled up some kusa grass that grew conveniently, and performed the ceremonial. The water was cool and invigorating and scented sublimely. But after my first immersion, I turned and I saw Vishnu gazing at me with a strange look in his eye. I felt the queers tingling in my body, and when I looked down at myself, I cried, "Veda Vyasa." I had turned into a woman. I stood thunderstruck, and I saw Vishnu pick up my veena and my deerskin. Smiling, he mounted on Garuda and flew into the sky. As he went, it seemed he took my memory with him, for I no longer remembered who I was. I forgot all about Narada and his veena. Why, I even forgot about Lord Vishnu. In a daze, I came out of the lake quite naked and also ravishing, and sat on the velvet moss grass and wondered who I was. Then I heard horses' hoofs behind me and turned to see a handsome king staring at me. He called to me, "Lovely one, who are you? Are you a Nagina or an Apsara or Devi? Who are you? Do you belong to any man? If you don't, please marry me, for I have lost my heart to you." So said Narada to Vedavyasa. Narada continued his amazing story. The king's name was Talabhaja, and when he proposed to me so forthrightly, I thought earnestly for a moment and said, "I don't know whose daughter I am. I do not know who my father and my mother are. All I know is that a dark man brought me here to this lake. He also has gone away, and I do not know where. My lord, I don't even know my own name. I am an orphan and I'm lost. Will you help me?" The king asked for a golden palanquin to be sent, and he had some fine silk clothes, and he took me home with him to his palace. Muni, understand, I no longer knew who I was. Within the week, an auspicious time was decided, and we were married. The king named me Sabhagya Sundari, and I was dearer to him than his life. Day and night, he wanted just to be with me, and he was a handsome king, and we spent most of our time in love together. One day, I realized I was pregnant, and the king could not have been happier. He spent all this time doting on me and bringing me extra things for whatever I wanted. In time, I delivered a beautiful son, and there was no bounds of happiness. 2 years passed, and I had another beautiful son. Well, in time, I gave birth to 12 boys and spent my days raising them. Our lives were perfectly happy, and soon our princes came to age, and we found suitable brides for them. Before we knew it, the king and I had become grandparents. Our palace was full of bright voices and laughter, and all the things that are most precious to human happiness. Of course, I grew increasingly entangled in attachment. No trace of who I was. I really I couldn't remember at all, either upon my person or in my mind. Only when any of my children were ill did I suffer. But soon our sons and their wives fought among each other, and then I did feel some anguish, and I was helpless against time's ravages that all the living must endure. I sank deeper and deeper into the bondage of samsara. Why, I grew proud of thinking of what a good wife I was, and what an able mother, and what a kindly mother-in-law and loving grandmother. I also thought of myself as a sage queen who had her husband's ear. But fate moves on and sweeps everything before her. My husband had an enemy in the king of a neighboring kingdom. One day this king arrived with his legions and attacked the king and all the warriors, and the kingdom was besieged. And my sons and grandsons rode out to defend their city. The battle was swift and savage. All my children were slain. My husband barely escaped with his life, and the enemy rode away, achieving their revenge he wanted on their old slight. I went wailing to the battlefield. Grief gripped through me, and I could hardly stand it. I flung myself across the bodies of my sons and grandsons, dismembered and sometimes even decapitated. My screams ranged across the bloody field. Just then, Vishnu arrived, there in the guise of an ancient and splendid old Brahman. He said to me conversationally, "Why are you crying, gracious woman? You seem to belong to a good family and to be a woman of wealth besides. Your tears are caused by moha, illusion. You are too attached. You are deluded. Go and bathe at some sacred site and offer till and tarpanam for your dead. Stop tormenting yourself, beautiful queen. Come with me. I will take you to an auspicious site not far from here. If you bathe there, you will find some peace." I rose and followed that lustrous Brahmana, but blindly, and with me was my stricken husband, the king. I could not for the life of me tell why I went, except that I was desperate and somehow felt sure the Brahmana would ease my anguish. We arrived at the lake. The Brahmana said to me, "Go and bathe now. Just think that you have lived 1,000,000 lives before this. In each one, you had sons and daughters and grandsons. Tell me, for which of them will you grieve? All this world is an illusion, dear lady, more than you know. Embodied souls inherit sufferings, anguish, and little else. Enter the water, it will bless you with peace." He stood on the bank with a faint smile on his lips. My eyes swimming with tears, I walked into the lake. As I immersed myself, strange calm washed over me. In a tide of peace swept over me. I rose spluttering from the water, and lo, I was Narada again. The Lord Vishnu was also himself, dark blue and clad in folded yellow. He stood smiling at me and cried, "Ah, Narada, you are taking your own time with your bath. Come on now, hurry a little. I have stood here for a very long time." The king was astounded to see Narada Muni with tangled jata piled up on his head, wade out from the lake into which his queen had gone for a bath. For a time he had quieted his grief over our children's death, but now he began to wail loudly. "My love, where are you? At first I lost my sons, and now my queen is snatched from me. Have you drowned yourself in grief? Or does a shark or crocodile lurk under the lake? This is not the time to abandon me, my queen. How will I bear my sorrow without you at my side? My life is over. Only men were allowed to commit sati when their wives died. Now Vishnu spoke gently to the king, saying, haven't you ever read the Shastras, O king, that you succumb to sorrow like this? Haven't you learned that the union of wives and sons in this world is momentary, like people crossing a river in boats meeting? All that happens in this world is by fate. It is no use crying. This is where you found your queen, and now you have lost her here as well. What time gave you, it has taken from you. You never really knew who she was. It is like the tale of the crow and the tall fruit. You gained her magically, and so too, you have now lost her. Don't cry anymore, king. Go home and know that time rules you. No man can conquer time. Not for all your tears will your queen return to you. Go back to your city and rule wisely. Tread the path of yoga and find peace for yourself. Everything in this life is transient. Only the truth never changes. It is rare to be blessed with a human birth, O king. A man should do everything in his power to attain liberation. The king, who was in the grip of such shock, grew calm at what Vishnu said to him, though he still saw Vishnu only as a bright Brahmana. The king bathed in the lake and returned to his city. There he slowly gave his power into the hands of his grandsons that still lived, and then took to sannyas in the forest, where one day he did gain enlightenment. When the king left Vishnu and me beside the magic lake, the Lord began to laugh heartily. I said to him, Vishnu, mine is powerful indeed, but Lord, how did I lose my memory so entirely when my soul was my own all the time? For how else could I remember every moment of being the queen as I do? Yes, every moment, and I blush to think of many of them. Vishnu said, there are more dreams and lives in your body than you realize. They all exist together, for the mind is a miraculous thing, and it is much more than any man realizes. The mind itself is Maya. Muni, when you sleep, do you remember what you dream? Yet while you are asleep, all that happens in your dreams is quite real enough, isn't it? All lives are dreams of one kind or another. They are all the work of Maya, and Maya is inscrutable, even to me. With that, we mounted Garuda again and flew back to Svetadvipa. So tells Narada to Vedavyasa. He said, we always live in the midst of fathomless mystery, and try as we will, we can never comprehend it with our minds. We can only surrender ourselves in bhakti, in devotion to God, and to the all-merciful Devi Bhagavati. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshwari Mata ki jai, Haryakandeshwari Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai. So grateful that we can be here to remind ourselves of this. So we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 for the Devi Puja, the 5th day of fall Navratri, and then 11 o'clock for the fire ceremony, chanting and discourse. Bole Baba ki jai, Jai Mahamaya ki jai.